I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting, January 17th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any deletions to the agenda items? I'm going to go ahead and delete item number 9. Anything else? Okay. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. A, claims. B, approve payroll removal. Jacob Vanderberg, IT specialist, effective 1/6/2023. C, approve payroll removal. Kate Derrick, collections assistant, attorney's office, effective 2/3/2023. D, approve payroll removal. Aaron DeCook, former District 1 representative, Board of Supervisors, effective 12/31/2022. F, approve payroll addition, Mark Snell, District 1 representative, Board of Supervisors, effective 1/1/2023. E, approve payroll addition, Jordan Hill Recorder, effective 1/1/2023. G, approve temporary hire Scott Peary, legal assistant, attorney's office, effective 1/9/2023. H, approve new hire Daniel Bolin, detention officer, sheriff's office, effective 1/3/2023. I, approve abatement of mobile home taxes pursuant to Iowa Code 435.25 on VIN number 145-606-18J in the amount of $68 plus all accrued interest. J, set public hearing for February 7th, 2023 at 9:35 a.m. for a second reading for rezoning application for lands from A1 Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial Highway Service District as submitted by GC Construction LLC.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye.
Motion is approved. The second item on our agenda is a discussion regarding jail staff retainage stipend with possible action. Good morning, Mr. Carrico.
Morning, Board. Thank you for your time this morning. This fall, we had discussed a retainage stipend for the jail in the amount of $150 per paycheck, and what that was to bring their wages up to average right about $20 an hour. This was done with the anticipation of a new collective bargaining agreement being completed. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. What I'm asking for the board to do is for the remainder of this year, if we can increase that stipend. The fund that has the room and board has the money in there to cover this, and we're currently about 3% ahead, 3 to 4% ahead in the two line items that affect the jail wages. I would like to increase that to a level of $450 a check. That takes them up in the ballpark of $23 an hour, is what that would average out to by my math. It will have a financial impact on, obviously, my budget to the tune of about $80,000 to $90,000. But like I said, I believe that I know it can be covered out of the jail room and board fund, and I believe most of it can be absorbed by the current amount that we have left in the line items that concern the jail wage payroll. So I'd ask the board just to consider that for the jail staff until wages can be adjusted with a new contract.
So the $150 represents an addition to their weekly pay, or? Sorry.
Per pay period.
So
yes.
every 2 weeks, they would get an additional $150, and you're asking for how
Sir,
much?
I would ask that that be increased to $450. That's a sizable increase, I understand. The $150 initially took them from 18 to just under 20 an hour. And when you look at comparative jails our size, they're starting at $22 to $24 an hour. I'm trying to get it competitive with them until a new collective bargaining agreement can be reached between the county and the union.
And the purpose of all this is to just retain your current staff. Are there issues relative to retaining employees?
I don't know above and beyond anything. You know, we've had a decent amount of applicants, but we've had some leave as well. Some, I think we've only lost one to another jail facility. Others have opted to get out of the profession altogether. I don't know if they learned that it's not for them once they get some real time on the ground with it.
Okay.
But as I stated, I'm just trying to stay competitive with the other size and area jails that we have to compete with for staff.
Okay. Are there any questions for Sheriff Carrico?
I'm assuming the budget request that will be coming forth for the next fiscal year will take all this into account. So this is kind of a bridge between where you have been to where we're going to be at some point in the future with the budget.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding and anticipation, yes.
When you look at this, would you chalk this up to a growing pains situation, or is it strictly inflationary pressure that you're receiving this need?
So I guess the way I would look at it is when I compare what other jails are paying their staff and starting their staff at compared to what, you know, and obviously in the very recent past, we didn't have a jail. Our wages are considerably lower than other counties, which was discussed at another meeting here with the board when this was initially approved. It's to make us competitive with those counties, so we're not going to lose staff to those counties. We have staff that live, when it comes to our jail division, we have staff that live out of county, and it's just as easy for them to drive to those counties as it is here. So to keep them here, I want to get competitive with wages as well if the county is able to do that.
Any other questions? I'll go ahead and make a motion to increase the biweekly stipend from $150 to $450, not to impact the general fund of the county, but to be funded from the jail fund.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you, Sheriff.
It's green.
That microphone is off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Come the next item.
Next item is item number 3, consider ARPA request for Sheriff's Department with possible action.
This ARPA request comes from a need to finish some infrastructure items with the new Justice Center. The first one is you should have a packet up there. I believe all three of you should have a packet that separates this out. The first one is a proposal from Miller Electric in the amount of $7,208. That is to finish our rooftop wireless access point. Currently, deputies now have to park at a limited access at a certain location around the Justice Center so their cameras can upload. The point of this is to get it up to the top to where, regardless of where a deputy parks around the Justice Center, whether it's in a parking lot, south side, west side, their car can reach our arbitrator and upload the video that they capture from calls, traffic stops. Something that should have been done probably before the building opened. We ran out of time. But their estimate is $7,208. The second part of this request is for hubs that we have, electronic hubs that we have on our evidence lockers. What those hubs do is they speak with our accurate controls. So we have 2 hubs that go into our evidence locker area, And when a deputy walks in to put evidence in the evidence locker, he or she's card, that's how they tag into the locker. It tells us, it documents who puts the evidence in there, or what card was accessed, who did it, what time, and then that's all corroborated by the cameras. In case the county attorney's office needs it for later usage, we can document the evidence that goes in and out. We have to have these hubs to operate our evidence system in an electronic fashion. That estimate is $6,828.64. The third part of this ARPA request is the privacy frosting of the windows within the sheriff's office. We had part of this done already, but a couple of the doors had to be changed out, so they're locking doors, and those 2 doors have to be redone. The estimate on that is $1,097. The total comes to just over $15,000. I've requested $16,000 because some of these quotes are just a little old, and I don't know if there's been an increase or not. Like the one from Miller's from a couple months ago, and the one from Accurate, trying to get that page here. It was from earlier this fall. It was about a month ago that it was done. So I would ask the board to consider the use of ARPA funds to finish those infrastructure projects within the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Any questions for Sheriff Carrico?
Do you anticipate additional items like this, or is this the end of these types of outside-the-box type requests?
The only project that I can foresee that would have an additional request down the road is we are currently finishing up installing one more security level door down in the intake area of the jail. I believe that's all taken care of, to my understanding. But until it's actually 100% completed, you never know. This is everything that we have. We've replaced our computers in our cars, or the arbitrator. Most of the computers in the cars we're working on replacing. This is, like I said, just so the computers can talk. So I would think we're nearing the end of that road.
So the total for the 3 is $15,133.64.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you're asking for a $15,000 ARPA request?
The one I submitted this morning with the addition of the frosting of the windows is 16. 15 gets close enough I just anticipate that, given the fact that a couple of the quotes are a month or so old, that there may be a little bit of increase there that we're not aware of.
Okay.
Very good. I have no more questions.
Thank you.
Any discussion from the board?
Just a quick question, and it's more because of my new tenure on the board. And that relates to the use of ARPA funds. I just want to verify that this is an appropriate use for ARPA funds. I'm assuming it is, otherwise it wouldn't have been submitted, but if somebody could clarify that for me.
I believe in looking through the statute or the guidelines for ARPA funds that they gave pretty wide latitude, if my recollection's correct, to law enforcement uses like this.
So you're saying this is an appropriate use? You're
I believe so.
verifying that.
Yes, I'm confident in that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want a motion?
Yes, please.
I would move the request for $16,000 as submitted in the board packet for the finishing up of wireless access points and hub hookups in the evidence room.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is to appoint the following representatives to the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance with possible action. Mr. Carroll?
How's it going?
Good.
So what you have before you, item number 4, is listed for the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance. which basically encompasses the surrounding counties around the Des Moines metro area, would be that boundary. On the next item is the MPO, which is a different boundary, which we'll get to on the next item, but just to be clear, as we're speaking on both of them, they do have different boundaries and different bylaws, and I think that's why we're setting these different positions here today. But I'll be here to answer any questions hopefully answer any questions on how the different bylaws operate with those two entities. But this is a kind of an annual renewal we do with those committees.
I believe we went through this at the organizational meeting. Was looking at my notes, and my understanding was that we are to have board representatives on the policy committees for the MPO, correct?
Correct.
And also for SERPTA.
Yes.
Now, we're dealing here specifically with the SERPTA request first, as I recall. So with that being the case, we show that you are the Transportation Technical Committee representative, is that correct?
That's correct.
But then we also show you as the Transportation Policy Committee alternate.
Correct. Currently, that's, yes. And that does not have to be the case. So if another board member were to volunteer to be an alternate, that could also be another option. So the way SERPA bylaws are is that I can serve as an alternate for policy, just for flexibility's sake. Since these committees handling sub-allocating funding dollars, they put an emphasis on meeting quorum. And I think that's why you see sometimes me as an alternate in policy, because that'll help your schedule if you're unable to make one of the meetings throughout the year, for instance. However, with it being policy, we are the technical side of things, and that is an alternate position. If the board so chooses, they could pick an alternate that's more policy-oriented to serve as sort of a sub or an alternate in the case that the board member cannot attend that meeting.
See, oh, okay.
I hope that helps clarify it. And it is confusing because again, both agencies have separate bylaws.
The reason I'm questioning this is because if we are supposed to deal with this policy separation or difference between electeds versus professionals otherwise, we probably should identify a board member to serve as that alternate policy committee person on the SERPTA board. Is that correct?
That would be your prerogative, yes.
Have you been serving in that role, or did Aaron DeCook serve in that role in the past?
Aaron DeCook mainly served that role. I can think of maybe a meeting or two where I had to help meet the quorum, but other than that, he generally attended, I'd say, the vast majority of the meetings.
Well, maybe to help this discussion out, I would be, Mr. Chair, I'd be willing to serve in that alternate capacity on this Transportation Policy Committee, if that's what the board would be willing to accept. And then that would also dovetail with the next item that's out here on the agenda, where we would need to have the Policy Committee representative on the MPO. I know we're mixing issues here, but just to tie them together so we can understand what's going on here. Unless we want to table this item and pull it up another time after we've had some other discussion.
I think we're about there. Do you have David, do you have a preference on the MPO Policy Committee, primary representative and alternate representative?
Our only personal preference is to serve more on the technical side of things. The only reason I can think of that we'd serve as an alternate on SERPA is for flexibility for the board members. And to help meet quorum, as I mentioned before, these committees handle funding allocations, so if measures can't pass because we can't meet quorum, that does have ramifications on high-dollar projects.
Okay.
Well, as I indicated just a moment ago, I'm willing to serve as the alternate on the Transportation Policy Committee for SERPTA, if that is the will of the board.
I have no issues with that. Crystal?
No.
No, okay. So SERPTA is handled, I think we all agree, and that's been placed forward.
Yep.
I'm still a
I'll make a
little-
motion to put Mark Snell as the Transportation Policy Committee alternate.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. So on NPO, Mark, do you want to serve on that as well, or do you
Yes,
prefer for
because-
David?
And I thought that's what we had agreed upon at our organizational meeting.
Okay, so that's all, that's a done deal, NPO is?
Well, but I think we need to identify an alternate as well from the board.
Yes, you could.
And so that probably should be another board member here as well. So in case, I'm assuming in case I'm not able to be there or something.
Yep.
I'm happy to be the alternate on the NPO Policy Committee. Discussion, Crystal, or thoughts?
No.
Is there a motion for,
I would move that, now we're on the next item, aren't we?
yes?
Okay. So under the MPO resolution, where we talk about the policy committee representation, I would reaffirm that Mark Snell be the primary representative and the alternate representative for policy committee be Darren Heater.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Now, there is one other question here, I think, Mr. Chair, that we need to deal with. And it's down here in this last item where it talks about the sub-area representative. And so maybe Mr. Carroll can help us to understand a little bit what that means. If otherwise, we might need to come back and revisit that item.
Yeah, so I've reached out to the NPO, Zach Young in particular. I just sent him an email this morning just to get clarification on what exactly that committee item entails. So my general recommendation of the board was just to strike that item in number 5 for now. My general feeling is it's not something that's going to be critical at this time to appoint. I think they would have put more emphasis on that item, but I can dig and get a little more information and see if that's something we even need to submit an applicant for. But since I'm following up today with the NPO on that matter, I would just recommend striking
Okay.
that bottom bullet point.
Okay, so we would basically take off the executive committee sub-area nominee from this resolution, correct?
Okay. Sorry about that, Mark.
So we would basically strike that executive committee sub-area nominee from this resolution?
That would be my general recommendation, would be to just strike the last bullet point and then approve the rest as stated.
Okay.
And then as soon as I receive that additional information, I'll forward it on to the board.
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion here for this whole resolution? Or,
I don't believe so. We had a motion, we approved our positions, and I think we'll just strike the 5th item from the record.
okay, but I'm just thinking here, this whole resolution as a whole, do we need to approve this, David?
No, we already did that at the organizational meeting.
Just to be safe, I would approve item number 4 with all the names as a whole, and then item number 5 with all the names as a whole, and strike the last item.
Okay.
That way, although it was approved at the organizational meeting, that way the MPO will get a cleaner copy of the resolution, I believe. So we're kind of approving it twice. I think we're just doing a more formal the second time around. Is that?
I'll entertain a motion to that effect, if anybody can
Okay.
track.
We move to appoint the following representatives to the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance. David Carroll to the Transportation Technical Committee, and David Carroll to the, Mark Snell to the Transportation Policy Committee, alternate.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Make a motion to appoint the following representatives to the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Mark Snell to the Policy Committee Primary Representative, and Darren Heater to the Policy Committee Alternate Representative, David Carroll to the Technical Committee Primary Representative, and Technical Committee Alternate Representative Tim Hill.
Second.
And let's strike the fifth item in that.
Are you going to come back at a later time with that information?
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as he emails me back,
Okay.
I'll figure out exactly if we need to do any action on that item or not.
And the Executive Committee, Sabria nominee, will be handled at a different time.
I'll second the motion. Discussion. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you very much for working through that with us, David. The next item on the agenda is to consider request for Joseph Thompson's pay increase, Help Desk 3, IT Department, retroactive 1/1/2023 with possible action. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right, so what we have here is we have a suggested wage change for Joe. As you're aware, I lost an employee recently that was critical to our team, and in order to retain staff, that is why I have placed this before you. When it comes to current IT needs across the board, I have some evidence from Glassdoor on IT salaries, and this falls actually underneath some of the Glassdoor salaries. And I think that it's very important for us, in order to achieve good talent, to pay them accordingly. And that's why I am submitting this, because Joe is essentially rotating into Jacob Vandenberg's position.
Do you have in a dollar amount what the impact to your budget is to make this change?
Pardon me?
What the impact to your budget will be because you've lost an employee, and so there's a subtraction from your expenses, and you're adding an employee, so there's an addition to your expenses. Do you know, is that going to fall about even with little impact to your budget?
It will take us over on on our initial projection for this fiscal year, but I think that it's critical to retain the knowledge base that we have in technology, because my employees do not do a single task. It's not like a typist, say, at Polk County. They have a multitude of technical information that is vital to Warren County, and Joe was, along with Jacob and the rest of my team, was an important piece of getting the Justice Center done. So I think that it's time that we look at a modification on some of this.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt?
I do have one. It's more from a budgetary process standpoint. Have you considered requesting an increase in the budget for this current fiscal year to modify it, to make it more in line, so that this wouldn't necessarily cause you to
Yes.
go over?
Yes, sir.
And what has been the resolution of that? Has the board taken that up yet?
No, sir.
So are you going to be bringing something forth to us that would show kind of this bigger picture issue that's going on? Because you're talking about something more than Joe.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, I think from a a current year standpoint, we probably should amend the budget if that's what's necessary to
Correct.
deal with this. I understand the immediate need here, but I want to also make sure that we are also looking at the bigger picture that this falls into.
That is correct. And I know the costs of employees. I can even break down to you how much we pay just in software expenses for a single new hire in Warren County. So when we have our budget meetings, I will go ahead and I will make a revision that shows this differential. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them at that time.
Just in my experience with your department and with Joe, he's come a long ways in the couple years I've been here. He seems to be he's a very customer service driven individual, and I think that your desire to retain him is a good decision. I think he's a very solid employee of ours, so appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any other questions for Matt? Any discussion by the board on this issue? I'll entertain a motion. Better yet, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to increase Joe Thompson's hourly rate from $20.43 to $26.90.
Second.
I'm going to make that effective retroactive back to January 1st.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome, sir.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion of pay ranges for open IT positions with possible action.
And the reason for that, sir, is because we're having difficulty obtaining qualified applicants for our open help desk positions. So my proposed range on help desk 1 candidates would be from $18 to $21.50 an hour. My proposed range for a help desk 2 candidate with some experience would be anywhere from $20 to $24 an hour. Because right now, the majority of applicants that we are receiving through HR are not qualified in any way, shape, or form, or they have problems that would negate their employability with Warren County. Because for those of you that are not aware, everybody that works in the IT department at Warren County has to be backgrounded by the FBI, and we have to conform to CJIS standards, which means you have to have an extremely clean record in order to pass that type of background check.
Okay. So specifically, what is your ask? It's not in our packet we have an old resolution for $19 per hour for a full-time staff person. And are you asking for us to change that rate, or what's your specific ask?
I'm just asking for an extended range to possibly get in a better candidate.
Are you posting a position now, and that's why you want to?
2 positions,
Okay.
one for help desk 1, one for help desk 2.
Could you repeat those ranges again, please?
The ranges that I'm looking for, sir, are on a help desk 1 candidate from $18 an hour to $21.50 an hour. On a help desk 2 candidate with some experience, it would be from $20 an hour to $24 an hour. Those are modest in comparison to what, we have been doing, but in today's market, it's extremely volatile in the IT industry.
What have those ranges been in the past?
Sometimes $15 an hour. I
So-
can use Joe Thompson as a perfect example. When we hired him, he was hired at $15 an hour. That's a matter of public record. And actually, employees within the department, when Joe came on full-time, gave some money, some of our salaries to boost him up a bit.
So my question was, okay, the new ranges you're proposing are 18 to 21 and 20 to 24. What were the prior ranges for those same categories?
They started at $15 an hour, and there was resistance at anything that exceeded, say, $19 an hour, sir.
Okay. And then the second category?
Again, the same thing. There was always resistance at anything more than $20 an hour.
I see. From the clarification question, and is Lene here?
Yeah, Lene's here.
Oh, okay. When we set the ranges for the employees, are those board set, or is there an overall budget that's put in place for the HR-related activity that then is left up to the individual departments to basically set those arrangements? So what I'm asking is, do we really need to set a range here?
I don't
formally?
believe that you do, sir. I think that I find a candidate, and I should be able to go ahead and make a negotiation, and you vote on it. You vote up or down.
Okay. So we need to formalize these, is what you're requesting?
Yes, sir, because there was some question with HR as to whether or not the ranges that I put in for the ads were appropriate for the board, and I just wanted to clarify it.
Okay.
So are we needing to, you're asking for that, us to move quicker on this today? Is that what you're asking for?
You do not have to. If it is fine with you for me to go ahead as a department head and recommend salary based off of a person's experience, then I can bring that individual to you for consideration.
I'm going to go ahead and just make a motion and see if this flies, and if it does, great, and if it doesn't, we'll move this to a work session and we'll get to the bottom of it for you, okay? But I'd make the motion to change the pay scale range on a help desk 1 candidate to $18 to $21.50, and a help desk 2 candidate from $20 to $24. And that is my motion.
Second.
Okay.
We had a motion and a second by Supervisor McIntyre. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8 is a discussion regarding another partial retainage payout for core with possible action. Hi, Jamie.
Good morning. So in meeting with Nick from DCI to go over the balances of the retainages that we're holding, Darren and I talked and agree with DCI that we should pay them another partial. That partial amount would be $28,288.23, and the balance that we would then, hold on the rest of their retainage is that same amount.
And Jamie, can you just share with the board why we're holding $28,000? If we do approve this, we'll be holding $28,000 in retainage for why aren't we paying this all out? Can you just mention that?
Yep, so Core had some significant work that they had left to do. They have been on site and done quite a bit of that. I need to go through and do the punch list for the items that they have gone back through. One of the biggest issues was the south stairwell, which Nick and I discussed, and DCI ended up doing some fixes there. So I need to sit down with Nick and talk through that. That was the biggest core issue that Shive and we thought probably fell on Core's shoulders. Nick feels otherwise because that was the main stairwell that was used throughout the entire process, so it got a little more wear and tear than the other stairwells did. So at this point, it's just a matter of making sure that back charges to other contractors and kind of credits between the contractors has taken place, and then finalizing Core's punch list items.
Thank you, Jamie. Are there any questions by the board for Jamie? Okay.
So are you recommending to do the partial?
The partial, yes.
I'll make a motion as soon as I get my act together here. I'll make a motion to release another partial retainage payout for Core in the amount of $28,288.23.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 9 has been deleted. Item number 10, consider accepting bids and awarding a contract for Greenfield Plaza Crestview Drive Storm Sewer Project with possible action.
So we've had a few projects come before you over the past couple of weeks, and B&K has done a great job administering this bid with our office, so I'll let Bob kind of take it from here on this one. He spoke to me over the phone prior to the meeting, and I think we have similar thoughts on it, so.
Okay.
Bob Veenstra Jr. of Veenstra and Kim.
Good morning.
We received bids last week on the Crestview Drive Storm Sewer Project. We actually received 6 bids, which actually in today's market is quite a few, because last year we probably would have seen 1 or 2. The low bid was submitted by Thorpe Contracting, as we talked at the work session in, about 7, 8 weeks ago. We took bids on 2 alternates, one open cut construction where they take out most of Crestview Drive, another one where they tunnel under Crestview Drive, which would be less disruptive to the neighborhood. We actually thought that the open cut one would be cheaper than the tunnel one, but in this particular case, it turned out the other way. The big issue we have is, like a lot of construction contracts, costs are just on construction are going crazy. And so they were over the estimate, they were over what we talked about with the board last, a year ago? And so I think, if you look at the marketplace, this is probably as good as you're going to get in today's market. We've talked to both of the low bidders. Both of them said they didn't really see costs coming down. If we rebid it, I don't think we're going to attract a lot of new bidders. This is really about 6 of the 7 bidders you would expect to see on a project like this. So when David and I talked about it, I think that really we're kind of, and there's no way to phase it. I mean, one of the things you always look at is could you take a little bit of it off and maybe bring it down closer to the budget? This project really has 2 parts to it. We have an outlet that's just over on Clover Hill, and then we have a problem that's over on Crestview. And we really need to connect the 2 together, and building half or 2/3 of it, we really don't accomplish anything. So if we build the more costly lower, what I'm going to say the southwest part of it, we don't really get to the problem. And if we build the part that's by the problem, we don't have any place for the water to go. So it's one of those non-phasable projects. It's not that long of a project. So I think we're kind of down to the question of, does the county want to move forward with the project, or really the other alternate is to abandon the project? I mean, there's really I don't think, David and I both agree that there's really not much middle ground in this particular case. You always kind of look at it, can you find, can I claw a little something off or can I, reduce it? I mean, the biggest issue here is we got to go between 2 houses, and I don't think it's realistic to think we're going to put a backhoe between 2 houses and dig a sewer that's 13, 14 feet deep. It's just not feasible. So we have to tunnel between them. And I know the 2 property owners, I've talked to them, they, I think they're grudgingly willing to go along with the project. I don't think they really are thrilled about the fact there's going to be construction, but they appreciate the fact that we're not, going to be digging between their houses. So I think that's kind of, David, if you want to offer anything else, I think that's kind of where we are on the project as far as.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what he said, the choice is to abandon it or move forward. If you do decide to move forward, I believe the next choice is then we can revise the ARPA application, and then the other option is to lump it in as part of our department's amendment, which we gave to Megan in December, kind of a draft version of that to review. But those are the two kind of avenues where either ARPA or our budget can cover the kind of the additional above the programmed ARPA funding amount that was, done months ago. So if you do decide to move forward, that's I think the next choice to make. And we don't have really an opinion either way. Not to get too off topic, but we're looking at fuel and some other things in that amendment. And it's something that you're going to see here in the next couple of weeks, so.
Okay.
As far as that, with the dollar amount it is over, and I think the benefit the project provides, I agree that we do recommend that this project could move forward if you do so wish.
What is the timetable on the project? If it was to be approved today to go forward, when would the project actually commence?
This is a project we really need to wait for better weather, so we're probably talking in the April-ish timeframe. They've got some things they have to order to get ready, but I think, I don't really want them out there working now because there is some street that needs to be replaced under either alternate. So my guess is we're looking at probably the April-ish timeframe, hopefully to wrap it up June or July.
And when we're looking at the alternate 1 versus alternate 2 bids, could you just clarify again what the differential is between those two?
There's two parts to the project. So one goes from Clover Hill to Crestview. That's the same. So we're really tunneling between the houses and a little bit of open cut on the end. When we turn and go north up Crestview, alternate 1 is that they would dig it with a backhoe in the east part of the street, put it under the street and replace the street. Under alternate 2, they'll go on the west side of the street and they'll tunnel or bore it parallel to the street and won't disturb the street. And then they'll get to the north end, they'll have to cross over because the storm sewer's on the west side and the connection's on the east side. So really it amounts to the north-south piece on Crestview. One of them is we take the street out and put it back as a part of the construction. The other, we would tunnel it or bore it along the side of the street and not take the street out. Obviously, the alternate 2 is less disruptive to the neighborhood because we're not tearing out the street. Or we have a little place we have to cross, but it'd be more like a patch rather than a couple hundred feet of the street. So we don't disturb driveways or things like that. So it's less disruptive to the neighborhood.
To do alternate 2?
Alternate 2. Yeah, we put it in there with the hopes that because it is a less disruptive to the neighborhood, maybe we could get a price that would be close enough that it would make worth considering. But as you see in this particular case, only one of the bidders, the low bidder, decided that the tunnel alternate is less costly. And we threw it in there because we were really hoping that we could get alternate 2 because that is, it is the less disruptive to the neighborhood. And in this particular case, the low bidder by Thorpe was alternate 2. We have worked with Thorpe. It's a relatively new contractor. If you've been around Thorpe Well Company, if you may have heard of them, this is a spin-off of that. The Tom Thorpe, who is like second or third generation, who runs Thorpe, his son decided about 4 or 5 years ago to get into the construction business, has done a number of underground projects, and then he started his own company. They sort of spun it off. So this is sort of a spin-off of Thorpe Well or Thorpe Water Development. But we've worked with them, I think, on 3 or 4 different projects. So they're a relatively small contractor. They tend to get after one project at a time. They can't do multiple projects. So when they win a project, they tend to be pretty competitive. But I was a little surprised, given the way they do work, that the alternate 2 would be less costly. But I've talked to them, and they seem to think they know what they're doing.
And they're capable of doing the work, the tunneling? Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is fantastic.
Do we need a motion?
If there's no further discussion, yes, we do.
I would move that we accept alternate 2 bid with Thorpe Contracting for the Greenfield Plaza Crestview Drive Storm Sewer Project.
Second?
Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to consider accepting bids and awarding a contract for a bridge deck overlay project on County Highway S23 over Short Creek, project number L-ARPA H1828-91 with possible action.
So this is a similar situation to the last project where we've had several estimates over the years. And as we move forward in time with construction cost increases, those estimates turn out being low. Kind of the interesting thing to me before these, you had 3 different engineers and 3 different projects, and we all came in a little low. Because we're looking at actual data and we can't, say a month of April, prices skyrocket, that's gonna, our price isn't always good for 30 days. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate that because on this one, the estimate was $370,000 to perform this overlay. And the 3 bids before you, which I will read off, are well over that estimate. So the first bid was Kramer and Associates Incorporated at $532,632.30. The next bid was Cunningham Reese LLC at $492,512.70. And the apparent low bidder on this project is Jasper Construction Services Incorporated at $466,027.80. And similar to the last item, if the board decides to move forward with this project, we would have to decide whether or not to amend the ARPA application or look into the, that amendment that was mentioned before. Our office recommends that we vote no to awarding this contract due to the dollar increases we've seen. To be frank, the estimate of $370,000 I feel was our personal breaking point. So if we received a different set of bids and it was closer to that estimate or even lower than that estimate, we would likely recommend to move forward. That being said, it's still a great project, so if the board did decide to move forward, it's not like you're not getting benefit out of it. However, as we approach the $500,000 range, when we're trying to buy 20 years conservatively on a structure versus replacing it 60 years at, let's say, $1.2 million in today's dollars, that's when we see the engineering economics start to point towards replacement and programming this bridge into a future year versus rehabbing it for possibly 20 plus years. So that's our justification behind why we would recommend not moving forward with the project. But if you did move forward with it, you'd still get benefit, you'd still get 20 plus years. But when you compare it to the replacement cost brand new, it's barely off, but it's not quite as much benefit as programming the bridge and replacing it. Not to beat a dead horse again, but he mentioned piecing apart a project. Again, this is another package deal project. We look at just doing the deck alone. Part of this project, we have to raise the deck, so that starts to get out of the question. So we did look into trying to, I guess, cheapen the project, but trying to take the guardrail out and approach it to be an option to get to the meat and potatoes of just doing the bridge deck. And with that, I'll take any further questions. But again, as far as a time scale, I believe the ARPA app submitted was 230,000 plus back when that estimate was done. The new engineer's estimate became 370,000, and then the bid, months later is now at the $466,000 to $533,000 range.
Obviously, there come some cosmetic concerns here. I assume they're not structural in nature.
Not at this time. I'd say they're more corrosive in nature. We have some exposed rebar. So unfortunately, it's just going to have a weight limit on it. And we can't predict how, fast that'll decrease, but what you'll have before you and what's due in April is a 5-year plan, and that's when you'll see that project hopefully programmed.
Okay. All right.
Your recommendation goes a long ways with me when you're electing to pass on this contract. I'm in agreement with the costs the way that they are, so I appreciate that recommendation, and I know where I'm at on it.
Yeah, it pains me it's still a very beneficial project to do the overlay as presented. But when you look at the impacts long-term with possibly putting it into amendment, do we really want to put that type of impact onto the reserves or not? And I would say based on that basic kind of engineering economic life cycle analysis of replacement versus repair, that it's not worth the impact to affect the reserves. And we know we're going to be impacting it with, possible fuel increases and some various other projects like the Greenfield Plaza, which is slightly over budget, not, 100 or 30,000 over.
All right. Any more questions for David, or any?
I do have a question here. Yeah. So just looking at this with the cosmetic issues that are not structural in nature, but, obviously are corrosive and things, are you going to be back here next year saying, I guess we need to move this up forward here a little bit faster?
If we make this call, then I would hope that my only recommendation is moving forward a bridge replacement project faster at that point. So if it does deteriorate faster than we think it will.
But at this time, there's no concerns as far as its structural integrity, other than placing on a weight limit?
Not at this time, because that type of repair is fairly extensive. They're grinding out the old deck that's there and putting a brand new deck on top where it's delaminated. So I don't think that'll be an issue. If it does become one, we're going to be talking about replacement at that time. Because it's not a detailed analysis, but replacement costs increase and so do repair. And a lot of times in this market, repairs can be more because of the cost of labor. And this type of work can be labor intensive. So a lot of times it can increase faster than the replacement costs. Sometimes it's not the masonry building, it's the labor to put the bricks up that can get you.
Any other questions?
I do have one more question here. Okay. Just because it does have the appearance that there is some deterioration of the bridge, is there any mitigation that can be accomplished that is short, that maybe helps to, I hate to say it, we're human beings. So when you look at something and it looks like it's falling apart, you jump to conclusions that maybe aren't accurate in terms of true. Does this fall in that category where there does need to be some cosmetic attention to the bridge so it reassures the public that it is safe?
We can look into that. So typically what I like to do on projects is I'll meet contractors out there. So contractors that do this type of work, say patching roads, they'll look at all our roads and give us recommendations. So I would reach out to a contractor and see if there's any sort of patching work we can do, should it deteriorate more, to buy a little bit of life. And the reason I say reach back out is we reach out to that contractor and they recommend this type of work. So I'd have to reach back out and see if there's any type of patching materials we can use in the meantime while we program, hopefully a replacement project, depending on the decision you make here today. But that would take me doing a little bit of research and talking to the same contractor that kind of recommend this project. And they basically drag a chain on your bridge and they listen for different sounds, and you get a percentage and you know how delaminated the bridge is. You can, it's kind of nerdy, but you can hear the sound difference. If you ever want to go drag chains on a bridge, it's quite the different acoustic, but that's what we do. We meet them out there, drag some chains on things, and that's how we kind of mark the spots and determine if there is some things we can do to get by. But that all hinges on the decision here before you, so if you decide to not move forward with this project, we would need to reach back out to some contractors to see if there's some patching products we can apply in the meantime.
Anything else?
Thank
Crystal,
you.
anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, David. So I'll make a motion to reject these bids and reject this contract.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion is approved. The next item on our agenda is to receive and file reports. And we have Betsy here from General Assistance.
Yes, so Michaela told me, and then I also listened to the organizational meeting where you talked about liking to have the staff come and kind of present these reports rather than just having them filed. So I thought it is a good opportunity because we as general assistants don't really get in front of you a whole lot. So this is a good opportunity to kind of check in. So I will just remind you, so I'm still acting as the Warren County General Assistance Director through the 28E with Franklin County. Obviously, you won't see me going through the payroll in Warren County. It will be through a claims process between Franklin and Warren. So just that little reminder. So 5% of my time is with General Assistance, and then we have Sarah Downard, who is our full-time General Assistance staff. So it'll be one of us that'll kind of come, probably not every month, or if you have specific questions, definitely reach out or want us to come. We're more than willing to. So I will kind of review the report if that works okay, and then if you have questions. So I will say, gosh, I mean, I always want to say like, 5 years I've been over general assistance, so it's probably been more like 8. It's like COVID years, I feel like they didn't exist somehow in my time frames. But since then, we've always done the general assistance report every month that was previously done with the general assistance office. So one feedback that I would ask for you guys too, if there's different information you want to see on this, we're definitely willing to change it. Sarah has done a really good job of coming into the office and creating some spreadsheets that kind of automatically generate these reports for efficiency. So if there are any changes, let us know. So you can look for the December reports, the one in front of you today. We had new clients approved. There were 4 individuals that had received assistance from us in the past. So that could be within the last year. It could be within the last 5 years. I mean, it's anybody that was in our existing system. So that was 6. We do always look at whether it's individuals that are receiving Social Security disability benefits. They kind of are identified differently in our ordinance, so we have those pulled out. So we were able to approve 11 individuals, and you can see the assistance below was mostly shelter, and then there was a funeral that we did provide assistance for. You'll see that there was no utility relief. With utilities right now, we're in the moratorium, the heating moratorium. So before anybody accesses any utility assistance from us, we always refer them to Impact to go through that LIHEAP program first. There will be times where we will still pay during this moratorium. So for instance, if somebody has water separated out, they can come in and get assistance if they have a disconnect notice for their water. So just a reminder in our plan, to be eligible for utilities, they have to have a disconnect notice. We will see this shoot up after April 1st. We'll definitely usually have quite a few people coming in looking for assistance with utilities. That's really when we see that jump. I haven't looked to see where we're at so far in January, but typically in January and February, we see an increase in rent. There's a lot of holiday expenditures. Kids are home from school, additional expenses that families incur, and so we do see usually more requests for assistance in January for rent as well. So We do have individuals that are denied. You can kind of see there. Most of the denials are typically over household income. That's the OHHI, over household income. So that is what they are being denied for typically. The other typical denial is usually with utilities is when we see our denials, is that we do require to make a good faith effort during the moratorium. Because individuals can't have their heating source shut off from November to April, sometimes individuals don't pay anything on it, and then it comes April and they have like a $2,000 utility bill. So what we're really trying to do is to teach people like, hey, you might not be able to pay the entire bill during that moratorium, and we know you're getting assistance from the LIHEAP program, but try to pay something. So we ask that they make 2 payments or at least 1 payment equal to the average 1-month utility. So if their utility is usually around $200, we ask that they made either 1 large payment or 2 smaller payments to reach that $200 in order to be eligible for our utility assistance. That's sometimes a denial reason, obviously not right now, but as you'll see later in the fiscal year. I will say I feel like Warren County has pretty generous income guidelines. We do 125% of federal poverty level, and we go based off of household size. There are some counties that do the FIP amount, which is like $361. So if a family of 2 makes over $361, they aren't eligible for general assistance, and nobody can live on $361. So even with assistance, even with low-income housing, even with food stamps, that's pretty tough to do, so. So if there's anything else different you'd like to see on this, we try at the bottom to show our interactions. I'm guaranteeing that there's probably some we miss, but we do try to capture most of them, whether it's when they're doing a lot of phone conversations or a lot of back and forth via email too, trying to get people their application and all their information in, so.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sounds good.
You're obviously dealing with people who have, challenging situations that you're involved with. We are hearing so much, especially on the state level and also through law enforcement, that mental health issues are clearly an issue that we are needing to address here in the county. If you were to look at your folks that you're serving, would a certain number of those folks fall into this category of needing some mental health assistance as well, in addition to the other maybe monetary stuff that you're doing? Could you speak about that a little bit?
Yep, absolutely. So I don't know, I emailed you, but we haven't actually met in person. So the other 95% of my time, is with the Central Iowa Community Services Mental Health and Disability Services region. So when I say that general assistance came under my office 8 years ago, I don't know, I estimate. It was probably one of the best things that Warren County did, because there's so much overlap between the individuals that are coming in for general assistance and those that could utilize or want to utilize mental health and disability services. There's just a great overlap into the people we serve. So it works out really well for them coming into our office. We have pamphlets out. It's a non-intimidating situation. They're coming in for rent, and I don't know, Sarah can probably speak to this too, but how many times they see Irely Ball also provides therapy out of our office. And so they come in and they're like, I really need to get back into therapy, or I really need to get back into my medications, those types of things. So we hear that a lot. So it gives us that great opportunity to be like, well, here's who you call to schedule an appointment. You can be seen right here. Now you've already been to the building. I think it's a whole lot less intimidating to, especially if you've never done therapy before, to like, what is it going to be like? I think people get kind of nervous about that. So it's really nice that, hey, you're coming right back here and you'll see the same faces again. So we hear a lot of that. It also gives that opportunity to say, you know what, it sounds like you have a lot going on. Why don't you meet with our social worker or our service coordinator? So we have a local service coordinator through CICS that is right there in the office. And so she can meet with people and kind of identify like, what help do you need? And kind of help connect them to those mental health and disability services. One of the things I know that Sarah and I have talked about quite a bit, and I've talked about the board in the past, is how can we even extend that general assistance program? So CICS really covers those who have mental health and disability and are willing to disclose the mental health and disability. We can kind of, if they're halfway, will disclose that there's some mental health going on, we can help. But those who are really just housing is a big issue. We're looking at even, is there some more things that we can do from the general assistance side so that we're not just giving them a one-time Band-Aid, right? Like, here you have a gaping wound, let's give you a Band-Aid a little bit so you're at least not evicted this month. I just had a landlord call and was like, okay, when did you pay, so when can I evict? You know, so we're really putting a Band-Aid sometimes on things, but how can we wrap around them to give them some more support so that we're really helping, not just a Band-Aid, but a little bit more support? Maybe at least a gauze pad, I don't know, something more. So, yeah, so there's a lot of overlap. I mean, I think that is really the benefit of our offices being co-located and working together. It helps get people into those services that they need.
Do you, from your perspective, with especially the changes that the state of Iowa made with regard to institutional care and some of those other types of things, the discussion has come up that probably the best solutions to help these people who are in need, to develop those at the very local level. I think that's us here at the county level and probably city level to try to come up with, where do you see us coming up with some solutions that maybe could be examples of ideal care for these individuals and how the local community comes together to make that happen, so that maybe we can help the state as a whole solve some of these issues. Do you see your agency being part of that solution?
I definitely think so. I think one of the things that, so CICS and doing the mental health and disability services, one of the things we struggle with is what is the mental health region's role with those social determinants of health, right? So the biggest one being housing, employment, those types of things. I think that's always where we're trying to figure out what is that local housing, whose responsibility is that? Is it ours to step in? But it's very much, we can't, CACS can't say, we're gonna build this mental health apartment complex, right? Because now you're segregating. And so there's always that integration that has to occur. So it really has to be that partnership where it's not, I don't feel like it's just one person's responsibility, the other. I know we have kind of that housing group that has met, and I've talked a lot about permanent supportive housing, which is like really where you house them first, and then hopefully once they can be housed in a stable housing environment, then you can get them connected to all the services. Because the problem is if I don't know where I'm gonna sleep tonight, or I don't have a place to live, how am I gonna get to my therapy appointment? How do I even keep track of what day it is that I have a doctor appointment today? So it's really trying to figure out how do we bring that social determinants of health to know that those make a difference too. It's not just the therapy and the medication management. It's that I need somewhere to live. I need to feel a part of a community. I need to have a job that I feel like I'm contributing to the community as well. And I'm a true member and not just a user of the community, right? I think nobody wants to feel that way. So I do think it's a partnership. I think as a region, we're always kind of trying to figure that out. What's our role? I think general assistance, right? Like we're trying to figure out, one of the things I put in my budget that I turned in for general assistance was, can we look at maybe retweaking how we do assistance? We do those, like I said, we can do lump sum payments twice a year is how general assistance has always been since I've had it. Can we look at creating some affordability over a year, right? To help, like, okay, yes, I need help because I'm looking at eviction now, but like, I'm trying to work and trying to keep my job, but I can't afford the $700 that my rent is every month, but I could afford $500. So maybe we say, okay, rather than getting you behind in all the stress that causes, could we pay $200 3 times instead of $600 at once? I mean, I just think we can start looking out outside the box a little bit. What can we do differently to make a more significant impact without the financial piece having to be affected too much, right? Because I know that's always where we're looking, right?
I think this is kind of moving up on the priority with the Board of Supervisors. And at some point, I think we're gonna request your intelligence and knowledge in this area and come in for a work session, probably not in the not too distant future, where we all sit down in kind of a work session format and brainstorm and come up with some ideas. And so please expect that invitation coming from us here shortly, okay?
Okay, perfect, sounds great.
Yep, those are good questions.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll make a motion to receive and file reports for general assistance and the Humane Society.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is the recorder to receive and file our new recorder's report. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, good morning, Board.
Good morning.
So I am just going to go over the current report that was being presented by Polly Wright and just kind of answer any questions and maybe just do a rundown of what all of these numbers mean. So the report breaks down the fees collected for recording deeds, mortgages. I need to check into this. The ATV county road fee, I don't believe we're getting these anymore, but I need to do more research on that. The next item is releases and assignments and then miscellaneous documents. The next item is conservation writing and issuing fees. That's through the DNR. The next fee is the recorder management fund. So when we record a real estate document, we record the first fee is $7 for the first page, $5 for each additional. There's a $1 fee that's collected for the recorder management fund. So that goes into an account that is held for document preservation. So scanning of documents, the cost that goes towards that, and kind of our book repair or any sort of maintenance on the books. The next one is vital records, so any of the fees that we collect for birth, death, marriage certificates, or marriage applications. This non-standard formatting recording fee is if the document doesn't meet formatting standards for the state of Iowa, we can collect a $10 non-conforming fee for that. So that is that dollar amount. The e-commerce fee is that other $1 that we collect for the $7. The outstanding charges paid and the outstanding charges due. So when we collect the fees for the electronic filings, that goes into our system as a charge, and then the next business day, that is going back into our account paid electronically from Iowa Land Records. The next section is the breakdown of the checks that we write at the end of the month. So the boat titles and liens, the county collects, we receive half of that fee, and the rest goes to the state, the other half. And then the vital records fee, that's the check that we send out to the state for the money that we collect for vital records. Then it breaks down again the recorder management fee and e-commerce fee that goes into a separate account. And then the boat titles and county conservation, again, the county keeps half and the other half goes to the state. And then down total recording fees, that transfer fee is the $5 that we collect for any document of conveyance. We collect that $5 transfer fee for each different legal description for the auditor. And then the revenue tax, that is a portion that we get to keep from the recording fees for purchase price and for the revenue tax that we get to collect for the transfer of machines through the DNR.
Excellent. How's it going? How's it going overall? Are you feeling like you're getting acclimated here well, or
Yes.
you feeling good about things?
I've got an amazing staff, and they've been extremely helpful. I feel like this week I can finally jump in and start helping them with learning the DNR system and doing kind of the things that I wasn't acquainted with before I came to Warren.
Excellent. Questions for Jordan? Great, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the recorder report.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Snell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the supervisor's report. I'm going to pass on my report due to time.
Do you want to go on?
Sure, I'll be happy to go. We've now had, this is the second meeting I've been involved with, but in the interim period, I participated in the Norwalk Mayor's Community Chat up in Norwalk. It was very nice because we ended up having city officials and state representatives that were present along with the school superintendent. So it was a very good free flow of information. I also participated in a pre-legislative session discussion hosted by the Indianola City in joint meeting with the Warren County Board of Supervisors, Indianola Community Schools, state legislators, which included Senator Garrett and Representative Bowden, and the IMU Board of Trustees. That was an interesting evening. We talked about issues there that were obviously legislatively oriented, but also ones that were of common interest, I think, between all those various entities. So it was an interesting dialogue. I also spoke with, I responded to new board and committee assignments, and we frankly have dealt with a lot of that today. I had spoken with County Engineer David Carroll and also EMA Board Director Troy Bass as follow-up to our last series of appointments. So I guess we're off and running now.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Crystal?
All right. We attended, since I didn't do my board report at the last regular board meeting, we did employee reviews. I met with the Indianola City Manager twice, Executive 911 Committee meeting, special meeting of the board met twice, safety meeting, Supervisors Continuing Education Committee meeting, Board of Supervisors work session 3 times, organizational meeting for the Board of Supervisors, Board of Supervisor regular meeting, attended a pre-legislative session that Mark talked about. It was a discussion and Indianola social event with the Board of Supervisors, Indianola IMU, City Council, School Board, and our legislators from the House and Senate. Demo for Board of Supervisors audit for software, understanding ADHD, mental health webinar, met with the treasurer and met with IT staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. This is the time of our meeting for public input. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. The board will not take any action on the comments due to the requirements of the open meeting law, but may do so in the future. No public input will be allowed for any of today's agenda items. Is there anybody from the public that would like to talk with the Board of Supervisors? Our next meeting date is February 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye.
Thank you for joining us today.